What is up, my dear friends, and welcome back to the Emotional Resilience Podcast. I am your host and relationship coach, Tyler Joe Stratton, and today I have a very special guest with us. He flew in all the way from Bali. Actually, he's been traveling all around. He's also known for his nomadic ways. He's built multiple different brands from the time that I've met him. The guy that I'm about to introduce to you today is a gentleman that I've been working with now for the past year and a half or so. And he joined me inside the Happy Heart Academy. And that's where we began. And then a year and a half later, still a client. What I love about the coaching industry, my friends, is the relationships that you build along the way. This is going to be a lifetime partner and good friend and coach and client. And I mean, there's been many things that he's helped me with and vice versa. I'm sure he'll share the story. But he decided that on his trip back to the United States, and we'll dive a little bit into that, he wanted to stop in. And through this series of events, I was like, you know what? There's a lot of life events that have taken place in my life that he knows about, and I might share that with you guys at another time. But this allowed me the opportunity to invite him into our home and sit down with him. This is our first time meeting in person. I just literally met you within a couple hours ago. But before we dive into today's episode, I just want to say thank you all for being here. This is going to be a video episode, so if you're listening to this in audio, go check out the YouTube channel at Tyler Joe Stratton. You'll find it there. I'll make sure to include Zach's information everywhere because he did also just get done writing a book called Love Unlocked, a guide to self-acceptance and conscious relating. We're going to dive into this book, and it's super awesome to know that I got one of the first copies of his books. Some fun facts with it. There's some errors with it, but as in there's no table of contents and a couple other things. But you know what I love about that is he still published it anyway. A lot of people, my friends, stop themselves from doing anything because it's not perfected. Although this was an accident, you still published it, right? And Absolutely. So like there's such great momentum behind what you were able to accomplish in, how many pages is this bad boy? 230 plus pages. And it's like, this now becomes a legacy. And listen, if you've ever suffered with loving yourself, I think this guy's a definition of what it means to love yourself. He understands, he has the knowledge, skill set, and ability to really inspire people to learn how to live from their heart rather than their hurt. He inspires people to live a more joyful life. He inspires people to understand what it means to consciously relate, not only to other people, but more so within yourself. So I welcome you to the show, Mr. Zach Spowart. What's up, my friend?
What's up, bro? Yeah,
welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good
to
to
meet
see
you
man.
Officially. It's so cool, dude.
Dude, I feel you here.
Here
it's
in
like,
Pittsburgh,
this crazy,
in the flesh.
dude. We have been on Zooms and on Google Meets since a year and a half ago.
Absolutely.
And man, I'll let you kind of, for those that don't know you, I've gotten the opportunity to coach you for the past year and a half now. And I've been grateful for every moment that you've allowed me to dive into your life. You've been an incredible person to work with, and you bring me so much insight into myself because you've challenged the coach as well. There's times that you and I go back and forth in the best way. It's like, dude, I don't think you're really there. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll be receptive, and vice versa. You've been an active listener. You've been an active go-getter. Life happens, and dude, I think you're the definition of what it means of being an overcoming, resilient individual, dude, for the past year and a half of your life. If you don't mind sharing, what has life been like for you for the past year and a half since we started working together? Tell them a little bit of the backstory of like why you decided with Happy Heart Academy and partner up with me, and like everything that you've worked through, what we've overcome, and where you're at today with now Love Unlocked. Dude.
Yeah, baby.
Incredible.
Yeah, gorgeous. Thanks, bud.
Yeah,
so pumped to be here. I mean, there's a lot to the story. Honestly, it's crazy how it works out, how you meet people in certain aspects of life, right? I mean, I don't know if the Instagram algorithm is just that good, but I happen to be going through a heartbreak.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, all of a sudden Tyler starts popping up, and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, oh, this message is super crystal clear, makes a ton of sense. I was already going to no contact. I already had the frame of mind in my head of like why you do that. It's not to penalize the other person.
Correct.
It's not to punish myself. It's like there's so much love and depth and appreciation, and there was such a life that was meant to be built with this person that I have to figure out again what it means to live without that person. And at least that was my experience of why I felt I needed to go no contact, to rediscover who I was. I'm really good at being independent. I'll go solo for a long time. I'm a solo world traveler. You know that about me.
Yeah, you're nomadic, dude.
Nomadic addict, right? That's the nickname, my other handle. But so when I got into that relationship, and it lasted as long as it did, thinking I was going to marry her, when it dissolved, and then subsequently we were able to connect through the algorithm, which is beautiful how it works that way. We became fast friends, and just being able to pour my heart out to you of like, look, this is where I'm at. I'm going through some physical challenges, we may or may not get into if we have time in the show. Went through some mental challenges associated with the breakup, financial challenges at the end of like really, really high peak career, to feeling like, oh my God, I'm starting over. And as you know, I've been living in Bali, Indonesia for 5 years, world traveler for a while, and feeling like, man, am I meant to be starting over on this side of the world? Am I meant to be coming back to the USA? What is this whole thing? What am I doing? What's it going to look like? You know, in comes this gorgeous human being. And we just started with like, all right, let's figure your life buckets out a little bit.
Yeah, that's where we began.
And it was awesome because I've been wanting to write this book for over 10 years. I've had the notes on it. I'd been a little bit discombobulated. And if for no other reason, just the ability to titrate that messaging down to like, okay, I have some time now and some discipline to not be distracted, and working with you to like continue to focus on like what I needed to do was monumental. And subsequently, yeah, like the book was published with no table of contents, which, fun fact, by the way, without rambling too much, he goes, it's really interesting that you decided not to put a guide into your book. I thought I was like, what do you mean I didn't have a guide in my book? So now we call it the collector's edition, because there's only the first 30 copies have no table of contents.
Yeah, this thing has no table of contents, because I was talking to you a little bit about it. I was like, dude, like, what do you mean? Like, your whole course and everything can be created from your table. Oh, wait a minute.
There is a table.
There isn't a table of contents. Like, that's your outline. That's your blueprint. That's how you unlock love, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, I think from my experience of knowing you, you've been on this internal journey for quite some time of self-discovery, what it means to love yourself, what it means to find the right partner, understanding like boundaries and understanding, you know, the ways that you want to receive love, be love, give love, you know, and you've have a crazy past, and I won't even say crazy, because you know what? Yeah. I think everyone has a crazy past. I feel like I have as well. And yours is no easy route, I would say. I know that, and if you don't mind me going into it, is like, you know, you've been sober now for how many years? Over
19. It'll be 20, God willing, the end of November.
End of November, you'll be sober for 19 years.
I'll be 20.
20.
End of November.
So what does that exactly mean, sober? Like, does that mean you haven't had a touch of alcohol, or you have and not been drunk, or like, what does that actually mean?
Great question. So no mind or mood altering substances. Now, it's arguable, like, of course, nicotine, which I've had in that period of time, and some other ones, but in terms of alcohol, benzodiazepines, things I was actively addicted to, mushrooms, anything that would really take me out of body. And this is no knock on anybody out there that feels the need to do so. This is just my story, my journey. But for me, I use these substances as a way to cope with life. We call it life on life's terms, and my inability to be able to meet life on life's terms. And truly just being an anxious-minded individual, an anxious-oriented individual, getting so sick to my stomach, I felt like I'd throw up. I couldn't go on dates. I could hardly socialize. Definitely couldn't be doing anything like this.
Yeah.
But I had to learn to live with myself without those substances. But so they worked for a period of time until they didn't. I started getting into a lot of mischief. Some bad things happened. Again, save that for another period of time, or I'm happy to share with anyone if they're curious. But at the end of the day, ultimately, I had to change. And that was just shortly after turning 21, which is wild. It's not the easiest time to get sober.
No, dude, that's the time too. Yeah, enjoy being 21, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't. Well, the math makes sense. Yeah. Now you were 21, and what made you decide to want to get sober?
Yeah. So in the short story of it, like, it stopped working. My solution to life was drinking. My solution to my anxiety was drinking. But what ended up happening was it no longer calmed my nerves. I had to drink more to achieve the same desired effect. It's the definition of tolerance. And ultimately, that led to blackout drinking, which led to unpredictable results, blackouts.
Of course it would.
And then I still was anxious as the rebound effect of drinking. So then I was prescribed benzodiazepines, which is Xanax, Klonopin, things like that, to calm my anxious mind from doctors, and taken as prescribed, all that jazz. But nevertheless, drinking, like just an afternoon or evening drink on benzodiazepines, can lead to blackout. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm a victim here, but that was essentially the major consequences of my actions. I was under the influence. I was trying to take my brother to go to Jack in the Box, which if you guys know that, it's just a fast food chain for a cheeseburger. I wanted to be a cool older brother. My brother wanted it, and I blacked out at the wheel, drinking, had some drinks, and then had the benzos. And it led to me going to jail, man. I was on felony probation, and life made it real hard for me I like to say that like God showed up for me in the form of a police officer. And he's like all for, whether you relate with God or the universe or whatever, it was like, it's all for free will, but for some reason it's like, dude, you really taking this free will thing too far. Like, let me help you
Beautiful.
go a different direction a little bit forcefully.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like to call that kind of mortality motivation sometimes. And maybe I'm not saying you were hit with mortality, but when a life event hits you that hard, it's like when your back's up against the wall, when you feel like you've did something, that you shouldn't have done, or like life just throws problem after problem, or and you're just not on the right path. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be here forever, and it's like I feel like I got to change my life in order to make a difference. And it's like I always say, live, love, matter. You got to live fully, you got to love openly, and you got to make a difference, and you got to matter. And you were able to take that obstacle of and I'm sure what quite of a journey that's been, 19 years, and I'm sure when you stepped into getting sober, was it easy for you, or what was the transition like? Was it because you did like we talked about earlier, declaration, right? Submitting yourself to a declaration that you believe in. Was it a flip of a switch where it was super easy for you to get sober, or did you fall off course and have to redirect yourself, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question, man. You're always great with questions. I think the short answer is yes and no, but more no, it was not easy than yes. Yes is the space of like I was so beat down that in that moment where I didn't know I'd broke my brother's neck, but I fractured a C1 and C2 vertebrae in that car accident. Could have severed his spinal cord. It could have completely killed him, if not left him in a vegetative state. Awful, totally terrible. And I didn't know that at the time, but I knew I had hurt him, and I knew that I'd hurt myself. And I knew that consequences were coming, but something about the moment, I could have ran, and I knew I could have ran. I had a friend that offered to pick me up, and I knew how to escape through the woods to get away. But something about the moment I see my brother laying there telling me that his neck hurt, and knowing like, I'm so tired of this. Like, how did I get to this point that this is my life? I don't want to do this anymore. It was just complete surrender in the moment. I just sat down next to him, and I just waited to be picked up by the police. And I think that's where the sobriety piece of like, yes, it was easy is true, because it was just like the heaviness I wanted to be over. And that was easy. The hard part was the consistency behind it. Because again, a 21-year-old going to college, trying to fit in, being alcohol free and stuff today is a little bit more cool. Like,
sure. It's a lifestyle now, and
for sure, which is great. And I support that completely. But it was, I don't want to say back then, I sound so old, but kind of like it was not
it's actually
cool.
cooler. There was a time it was cool to smoke.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember? Yeah,
exactly.
It was cool to have a cigarette.
No, not all, but close enough. Yeah,
but you understand. I mean, I remember people used to smoke all the time, dude.
Very
and
true.
now you rarely see people that smoke.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? So it used to be kind of a fad, or part of
Exactly.
like there's a lot of benefits to it. Now it's like, nah, it's not really cool. Movies used to showcase it all the time. Now 100%. They don't.
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
So what caused you to like drink at that? Like, if you're saying that this all took place when you were 21.
Yeah.
You were obviously didn't turn 21 and start drinking, then needed to get sober. Like, you were drinking at a young age?
Yeah. I think my first exposure drink was probably closer to like 13-ish, but I really got into it more at like 15, 16.
Any reason or
the anxiety thing? I would get so sick to my stomach, I'd throw up on my way to school, like on the way
socially,
to dates.
like, or what were you?
I think, it's interesting. I thought I had an ulcer at the time. Like I was going and seeing doctors. Like I was taking antacids that were prescribed. And like, I just genuinely thought there was a problem with my stomach. But there was no like actual ability to truly diagnose or understand what was coming up for me. And I think that was my biggest challenge. And then I was introduced to alcohol with my first girlfriend, and my first real girlfriend. And I was like, oh wow, this makes me
feel
like,
good.
Happy. Yeah, it makes my brain like a little quieter, and it just makes things a little bit easier. Yeah. That's why we say it was like the solution until it wasn't.
It's interesting that you say that, because my story was like, what got me into personal development meditation, I landed in an account called Mind Valley, was I went through a heartbreak, and I thought I was supposed to, I don't know, actually, no, I don't want to just continue to use this story because it sounds good, but I think I didn't want to be alone, and I wasn't strong enough to be by myself, even though I know that she cheated on me, and it like disrupted everything about me. And then I stayed with her for another like 3 years, and throughout high school and a little bit of college. And I don't know if she was supposed to be my person. Obviously, she's not. But like I was playing pretend that she was supposed to be, and wrote this whole story so that it like solidified my suffering, right? So I'm like, yeah, well, she was supposed to be my person and my high school sweetheart. All these things were supposed to work out, get married, etc. I didn't really know that,
of course.
but like that's the story I was telling myself, because when we were like cutting things off, I remember I worried myself into a state of that same ulcer, like that I was throwing up blood every weekend. And then the trigger was every time I came back home from college to see her, I'd get super sick to my stomach and I'd start throwing up blood and everything. And I would go to the hospital. I'd be in and out of the hospitals. They're like, well, they couldn't figure it out. That's the problem. And then I was like, this one time when I finally like broke it off, I was like, enough is enough. I spent time in the woods, in the wilderness, healing. I just went out to scream. I went out to like just connect to the earth. And I remember this one time, dude, I was sitting at the top of a bridge and I contemplated taking my life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I truly was going to, but the thought came in while I was on top of the bridge, and there's visualizations. And then I looked back for a quick second. It was on a railroad track, and I saw this little leaf of like tree, maybe like an oak tree, kind of fighting through. This is a real story. Fighting through like these rocks by the railroad track, and something told me to get off, look at that. And I literally got like this close to this like little like leaf thing, and I was like, if God is here to take care of you, I must have a reason to stay. And so it was like I stepped off, and then I went into the woods, in the backwoods, and then I started to, without noticing, meditating to like, wow, God is here to take care of the birds, the bees, the trees. Like the water was running, over the rocks, and it was just so peaceful. And I was like, I connected it to it for a moment, and I was like, that was all that I needed, was that moment. And I went on this transformation and read a book. I don't think I have it here right now, but it's called The 15 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. And it taught me that I'm basically the cause and effect of my future, and the future that I want is up to me to decide, and take ownership of my life. And it was, I was illiterate, couldn't read, write. I was always in tutoring my whole life, from an early age to my senior year of high school, then into college. I couldn't do anything that normal people could do, because I was in survival because of the way that I was raised, right? In the chaotic environment. So when you're stuck in that survival state, right? You got cheated on, the worst case of like relationships, you went through mental, emotional, physical abuse in your family, and things of that nature. Well, what that does is it doesn't allow you to be open and receptive to learning. So I stalled in my growth of learning and understanding. And I just told you this on the car ride here. I said, it takes me so much effort to actually learn something. I can't take the easy way around, right? And it's because of that survival state that I find myself locked in. And so enough of me, back to your story, man, is like, I can relate to that, because when you have stomach issues, man, it can wreck, it can ruin you. It ruins life, dude. And it's like brain body connection is where I realized my sickness was here. That's why this was never getting fixed. I was trying to fix my stomach. I needed to fix my mind.
100%.
Went into meditation, and it changed the game. I still have the crystals on that windowsill over there of when I did the chakra meditations, and I would go into the actual part of my body that I felt was in pain, and I visualized this healing light to kind of like take over and just kind of help me heal. And with that, I healed my mind, I healed my stomach, and I was like, wait a minute, there's something about meditation that can transform your life. So I continue to meditate to this very day, because I understand the power behind that. But you have a story in which you found alcohol to escape a life, and escapism, to distract yourself from life's overwhelm, realistically, whether it's anxiety or not. But talk through us, like, you went through, you overcame that, you worked through your sobriety, you became sober. And then, I would say that through the past couple of years, you've been on this inner journey of like self-acceptance and self-love, and understanding the importance of that. Talk a little bit about the transition, and what did you use to escape the alcoholism or, your substance abuse in some way, shape, or form? Where did you go next after you went through your 12-week program? Like, did you focus on travel? Did you focus on, what was life like in the time of like healing your own, addictions?
My 12-week program for...
Yeah, I mean, you went through your 12-week program, right? Or what was it?
You mean for when I got sober?
Yeah, when you got sober.
Oh, that was like a year-long program.
Oh, was it?
That's why I wasn't sure. Yeah.
12 months.
Yeah. So it was, so I did an inpatient, and then outpatient and extended therapy. And then I actually ended up meeting a guy who was my sponsor at the time, because I got sober through AA, not necessarily pushing that on anybody, but that helped me. But he worked in a meditative space, and he introduced me to Dharmic practices. It was called Dharma Punks in Los Angeles. It was really cool. And Against the Stream. And I'd go there, and we had these phenomenal meditations. And I was introduced to this idea of metta, which is, not just, it's like a forgiveness-oriented meditation. So just to mirror off of the back of what you were saying, that changed my whole life. I mean, literally being able to give people the benefit of the doubt when I ran into them, like when someone cuts you off, like maybe their wife's,
in labor.
In labor,
or
exactly.
Like, yeah.
Or maybe their dad passed away.
Or they have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Or a million things that we have no idea what's going on. We personalize it so often.
Yeah.
And it just shaped the way I saw the world so differently. And it brought me so much more peace on levels that I didn't even know existed. Now, I'm far from a monk, so I don't want to pretend like that's anything that's come up for me. But it did shape my life more than anything else. And I know when I get into the meditative practice, how much different my outlook is and how much more like positive I see the world, or even just neutral. It doesn't have that nothing is good or bad. It's thinking that makes it so. It's a William Shakespeare quote. It's one of my favorites. So what's our attachment to a situation that leads to our belief system based off of our upbringing to see that as good or bad in a nutshell. But meditation is just what is like let things be without connecting or attaching one way or another. So anyway, so I got into that for a while, loved it. It shaped my whole way of life. So I totally support that. But it still wasn't easy. Like at the 2-year mark, I almost relapsed. I had a beer in my hand. I was dating a girl at the time. She ran to the restroom. We were doing country swing dancing at a bar. And I still remember looking at that Corona like it was yesterday, like, I'm going to drink this. And then I think I just kind of, I don't know, stalled in my brain for a while thinking about it. She came back and just took it. I don't even think I ever mentioned it to her. But
No way.
Like, I'm like, I guess I'm not going to drink it.
Oh, hallelujah. That's good.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And I've had a few fingertip moments hanging on by a thread. But back to your original question, no drinks or drugs for over 19 years, November 28, 2006. It's the clock here on my tattooed on my arm.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, 11/28/06 it says. But I was always afraid to tattoo it, but recently I wasn't. I decided.
Yeah, you just got that, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, or inside of this year. It's the shedding of skins over the passing of time with the year of the snake. So anyway,
incredible.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but anyways, the snake tattoo. Yeah. But I think really back to the point of the substances, as you mentioned, and just was it challenging? Yes, absolutely. Are there times when life gets better without drinking and drugging? Absolutely. Does life still happen, and do we still suffer without the use of drugs and drinking? Absolutely. And so what was I doing after that to help me cope? Well, I mean, I was a triathlete for a period of time, but I found that no matter how fast I pedal or how hard I run, like at the end of the day, I can't escape myself. I was swimming in the pool like miles, right? But it was interesting. I had this sort of David Goggins style thought process, which works for some people, where, forget my language, but I just talk shit to myself like all day long.
Yeah.
Just like about like what a piece of shit I was, how I needed to go faster, how I don't work out hard enough. And I was just, but what's interesting about that is when I went and did my first Ironman circuit triathlon, I not only did I get sick before the race, not anxious, but like physically sick.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a great time, like physically, like my time produced was not as good as it should have been. And later I went back and I reran the same race with a different injury. So I should have been slower with less training, but I just had a positive framework. No joke, I'm not lying, I'm not making this up. And I just like, Zach, just have a good time. You're doing great. I'm so proud of you, buddy. I had like a positive, thank you for allowing me to do this.
Yeah.
Dude, I smoked my old record on the same course.
No kidding?
They were the same course, same race, different years later with more of an injury, less training, and just a different framework.
Yeah.
And
mindset.
it was like 16, 17 minutes faster. Minutes.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. It was
how long was that race like?
So it's a 70.3 circuit. It was a 6-hour race. I wanted to do under 6 hours. So while I was talking shit to myself, my goal was to go under 6 hours.
Yeah.
This is God's comedic relief for me. I was like 6 hours and 40 something seconds.
Oh,
so it's
funny.
like, so of course, what do I do? I'm naturally talking shit to myself, and I finished just 40 something seconds over. So I continue to talk shit to myself. Why do I say that? Well, because the book and many other things in sobriety and life in general are rooted in like, where am I going in life if I'm speaking poorly to myself? Like I talk about it in one of the chapters, like you wouldn't speak poorly or allow a child to speak poorly to themselves or to anyone else. Like, why do we allow ourselves to speak so poorly to ourselves? Like we would never let someone.
Wouldn't want it.
We wouldn't want to speak poorly to other people more often than not.
Right.
But yet, like we allow the
gossip within.
Online, just to speak so poorly. And at least that's true for me. Maybe it's true for you guys watching and listening. But that really hit home for me, and that's where this book, like my first love lost, my first true love. I was 26. Is where I had the inspiration for this book. I'm 40 and a half now. I wrote this at 40, guys. 39 officially. And that's the framework for the book, man. I had the outline, I had all of it. So I know I covered a lot in your question there of like bits of the journey. It's been a big story and there's a lot more to disclose, but that's the birth of the book and a little bit of taste of like the escapism. But now like through physical injury, just to wrap up that question and other things, you know this as well as anybody, like through some financial challenges, I wasn't able to travel, which was maybe a form of escape at one point.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to exercise through some physical pains. And injuries that you're aware of.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to cope with the partner because the partner was lost. And you know, didn't work out for us to ultimately end up coming together, going through that breakup. And it was like, where do I go? So go within or go without, buddy. Like,
that's good. Yeah. Go within or go without. I think that's something we all have to check ourselves on. It's like, because wherever you are, right? There I am. And it sucks sometimes too. I've went through that myself. We all do, right? It's like, and you should, because that's part of self-discovery. Sometimes you got to know what you don't want in order to find what you do want, you know? And it's like, I went through such difficult times throughout my life, which I label them for what they are. They were tough for me. Doesn't mean they were tough for the next person, or they were a lot better than, you know, what most people experience, but, you know, worse than many others. So it's like, I'm not here to victimize myself, but I am here to say, like, it's beautiful when you do go through these difficult times in life, because I think that's where you have a choice to make. You're sitting at a crossroad, and one can be complacent and distracted, and it can cause you to wither away and have the poor me victim mentality of like, why me, why now, why everything, life sucks, yada, yada, yada. I am so over that. And I put in too much damn work for me to find myself with that. For those that you obviously don't know, I just got let go of a full-time career that I was in love with. Zach's been with me this entire time, and I'm in a transition period to now become a full-time entrepreneur. And I'm trusting. I'm having more faith than fear right now. And you know, there's a lot of good things to this. But that doesn't mean that my back doesn't feel like it's up against the wall. And there was no better timing than now for you to come into my life, to show up in my house, to be able to be like, you know what, like even the conversations you've allowed me to share with you, which you've been really good with throughout this entire journey of coaching, is like, you're always receptive and you're a great listener, which makes you a great coach, because he's also a coach in relationships. Also, he's great with online branding. Also, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I kind of want to dive into the book a little bit. Love Unlocked, dude. This has been something that you've been thinking about doing for quite some time. Yeah. My question to you realistically is, why now? I mean, you've had this in your mind for years, and you chose now to be the time. I'm at 39 going on 40 and a half. Right, is what she said. Since we're talking halves now, you know, I'm still young in my eyes, man. Amen. So why does the world need this book now? A Love Unlocked, a guide to self-acceptance and conscious relating.
Yeah, and why even that subtitle, right? Thank you for that. I think so I'll start with why now for me.
And then I want to dig into helping people understand what does conscious relating actually mean.
Absolutely.
So that they can understand why this book is beneficial for them.
Yeah, thank you. And remind me to come back to that.
Sure.
So I'll start with why this book for me at this time. Well, and this is something I want to mention. Thank you for that. Like, for anyone out there, I mean, look, I could have wrote this thing at 26. I remember waking up in the middle of the night. They call it the God hours, 2 a.m. or whatever, just frantically writing, because I'm like, this is what's on my heart. But guess what? I have 2 master's degrees now. I didn't have them then. I was 26 years old. I'd only had one love, and guess what? That one failed. Like, ironically, I'm 40 and a half. I wrote a book on love, and I'm still single. So that's a joke.
But nothing to do with love, though.
Exactly.
Like, you're good at love, man.
Yeah.
You are. Picking partners is tough.
But thank you for that. But the more reason why I share that is because the comedic aspect of it, there's always a possibility and a desire to talk ourselves out of the things that we feel called to do. That's why I share that, and I have no problem admitting it, because it would be easy to look at that and make fun of me for it, potentially on the outside. Sure. But the truth of the matter is you were so kind to jump in and defend me, and thank you for that. Like, there's reasons why we're called to do the things we do. We don't even have to know why those reasons are. And at 26, I truly believe I could have produced an amazing book, but I didn't believe in myself enough to show up for it. So why now, at 39 or whatever, we were working before I hit 40, maybe it was just 40. it was because that was the time when I finally was like, if not now, when? Like, now I have 2 master's degrees. Now I've had all these relationships. Now I've like built businesses and I've traveled the world, and it's like, what am I waiting on? If I don't do this now, and AI was starting to come out, and I felt like if I didn't write this book before AI like came out, maybe more and more books are going to be written that were AI, and I wanted this to be from my voice.
Yeah.
And I just got like now, like we said, there was no finance to distract me. The physical pain was there. I wasn't working out like crazy, so I just went to a coffee shop every day. I sat down, and I just wrote. And yeah, and in a year's time, or the time that we worked, a year and a half or so, like, I mean, it took longer than I thought, to be honest, but I put it together, and that's why for me. Now, why for you? I believe more now than ever, like through COVID times, through struggles that we have, like some people are doing better without substances, although there's still a lot of substance abuse issues out there. But, you know, mental health is still extremely prevalent. Like we live in this world. We were just talking about this in this amazing sandwich place you took me to.
Permani's in Pittsburgh, yeah.
Shout out, not a sponsorship.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, Permani's.
But we were just talking about how, like, you know, like what are we doing from a space of balance, like work-life balance? Like we just, maybe you want to be a trillionaire and that'd be amazing. Maybe we want to be a billionaire and that's amazing. But it's like, we're working so hard these days just to get by. And that's not a shot at the economy or anything else necessarily politically. It's just, where's the work-life balance? And are we finding time to really love our life and fall in love with our lives? Or are we only stuck in like the daily grind? And I think that's the aspect where we lose ourselves. And that comes full circle to your question for what is conscious relating. Not to sound tacky or totally blanked on that word, but
oh, good.
Cliche.
Cliche.
Is it does start with ourself, and conscious relating is authentic relating. So who is my true and authentic self? Who is my truest and authentic Zach? If I can't answer that question, I'm in a lot of trouble, bro. And so being a counselor with a degree in co-occurring mental health disorders, I've seen and treated eating disorders. I've seen and treated depression, anxiety, alcoholism, all these things in families and couples and individuals. And I got to also do a lot of work on myself, which was a blessing in all these years staying sober. Every time I felt left out because I wasn't drinking, every time I got on a plane by myself and flew somewhere to a new country, every time I went to a movie by myself or scuba dived by myself, or I went through another breakup or stayed single because I didn't want to, you know, mask those emotions or the fears and the panic and the struggle by going on a dating app or just hooking up with somebody. All of those things led me to understand who I am. And so when people ask me today, who is Zach? I have an answer. And when I ask someone who they are and they don't, that's when I'm like, beautiful. Like, I'm not saying I'm perfect and I have it all figured out. I'm just saying I've discovered who I am to a degree.
You
where
have
I
a
can
strong
give you an
foundation.
answer.
Yeah.
Correct.
To stand upon.
That's what this book is about. It helps you find the true root of yourself, why you attach and disconnect the way that you do. It does cover some attachment styles, trauma bonds, communication styles, passive aggressive, etc. So
that's beautiful. Yeah, Love Unlocked, you know, and the idea of like it all starts with self, you know, I think that's super important for everyone to understand that it's hard to find love without when you don't have it within. And it's something that I definitely struggled with, like we were talking about earlier, of like, because we know of all of our downfalls, all of our non-committals, that we said we were going to do something, we don't do it. We beat ourselves up, we hang ourselves by the tongue. And there's a book called Hung by the Tongue that I often reference a lot on this podcast. And I always recommend it because it's a very an interesting title. Hung by the tongue is like killing yourself by the words that you speak to yourself. And then you think about suicide and what really causes people to like commit suicide. It's through the words that they're speaking to themselves. So be careful with the words that you speak to yourself all the time. And it's like, well, you might be speaking poorly to yourself because you don't have that declaration or that foundational conscious relating aspect to your life, to where it's like you have some like, no, this is who I am. And because you can state even just one thing, like I'm an athlete. Well, how does an athlete show up into this situation? Oh, I'm a husband. How does a husband show up into this situation? I am loyal. These are why I think core values at the individual level is super important to have. I have 7. And it's like, I try to anchor myself to my core values so that the way that I show up is either in alignment or not alignment. And when I know that I'm not, you know, super happy with the way life is or the way that I am, it's because I'm usually out of alignment, not congruent with like how I know I should be showing up. So misery comes from you not being able to consciously relate to yourself, or taking the time or space needed to figure out who the hell you are, what the hell you want, and where the hell you're going to go, right? That's super important. No one has a direction for their life, and they're waiting for someone else to tell them their direction.
Absolutely.
And then someone else tells you your direction, and then you're like, well, this sucks, doesn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it does suck. And that's what's happened to me multiple times because I've never had security in my life. So that's why I wanted to have a job to be secure. Lo and behold, I'm about as secure as just a yes or no, whether I'm getting let go of or not, right? And it's like, so there's a whole facade behind security, and what is actually secure is me. What is actually secure is my wife. What is actually secure is my God. What is actually secure is my values. Some things that never change within myself that I found through consciously without even me realizing that that's what I was doing. So it's beautiful that you have the awareness and the knowledge, skill set, and ability to write words that help someone to understand how to consciously relate or authentically relate to who they are, so that they can set up boundaries, so they can understand their attachment style, so that they can understand how to not only give love, but be love within themselves, because it's like hard to give you $1 million if I don't have it. Hard to give you love when I don't have it. And I can give it for a while, but it's very fake. Right? And
or
then relationships, always, very much so. I was in a relationship that was very transactional in the past. And it's like, well, it's always tallied, right? I get this from you because I've given you that. I'm like, I hate those style of relationships. But dude, like, I think working with you has helped me understand, like, I need to become more conscious about how I'm relating to myself in the way that I have been able to show up just congruently, because congruence is happiness, man. And it's like when you're living out of alignment from what you truly want in life, man, you'll feel miserable. And I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow, but today I feel like I'm living fully. Like I really do, genuinely. Like I could be doing 100 different things, but I'm just grateful that I have this day to share it with you, and then to share this conversation with other people, because I do think that I love the title, by the way, Love Unlocked.
Thanks, buddy.
I think the color, no, I'm just kidding.
No, red for love.
Yeah, I get it, dude. It's beautiful. And I think, what if there was, a time, I would say, in the book for someone, they're not big readers. What is maybe, like, let's say they go get the book. What chapter, if you can recall, what chapter do you think that they should just start with rather than like reading the whole thing? Because I know how long books can be, right?
They're the worst.
Oh, books are the worst, dude. I'm like,
so many words.
Yeah, so many words, so much time. It's like, I got to read 10 pages a day. You got to be kidding me, right? So what chapter in the book do you think would not only speak to you the most, but speak to the audience the most, of like, what would be resonate with them and really impact them the most?
I love this question. I think it's strategically put there. I'm particularly proud of all the book, which is I would hope every author would say about their book. But truly, like, really, really love every single chapter. I think they're all super valuable. But my favorite chapter is, and I think this was needed to be the case, is chapter 1, because it outlines what love means and the use and abuse of the word love itself. So what is our connection with it? And I even touch upon this idea of, the Inuit people having 30 different words for snow, and they use that by design because snow means different things to them based off of their way of life. Sanskrit has over 96 different words for love. Greek has 5. Like we talk about the love languages. I touch on, like, do you actually believe, and this is no discredit to the author, but do you actually think that you only have one love language? It's like, no, they're all 5. Like, you need all 5. You can't just like not have one, but like, and that shifts and changes. So I introduced that idea. It's not to discredit the author. It's just like, I think that took off so well because we don't have any other language for love in the English language. I say, I love that shirt on you. I love your haircut. I love your little dog. It's amazing. I love that new car you have. Like, I love the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I love everything. I love that sandwich place you took me to. So if I love everything, then it's possible I actually love nothing because we've saturated and diluted the word. So all this is covered in chapter 1 by design as an introduction to help people get to think about, like, how often am I using this word and what is the depth behind it? So then you introduce the 5 love languages. And I think that's the first time in the English language, because other languages do a better job at it, we stopped and thought, like, wow, there's a couple of different ways to see this word. It can be in gifts. It can be in acts of services. It can be in, affirmations. And that's why people start going, oh, that's my love language. And it's like, no, I mean, arguably, no, that's not a thing. It's just, this is the first time we've really kind of packaged it in a way where people are like, oh, wow, like I see love in 5 different categories.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've actually, and unfortunately, and this has been transparent, I haven't had time to read your book, but hear me out. Say what?
I'm just kidding.
I haven't had time to read hardly any books this year.
I
don't know if this might be the first year in about 12 years that I haven't finished like a book fully. And here we are 7 months into this year. Now I've
Totally
started at 100 different books, pulling from different sections of books to help reiterate, like, because I think everything that I need to know to get me to where I want to go, I already have in here. I just need reminders. So I go back to these core foundational principles in books. So I have one for success. I have one for, obviously I go back to the Bible, and I have one for my business model, right? So it's like, I'm trying to really position myself to focus in on what actually matters and not fill it with things that make me feel good about me, right? So it's a little challenging, as much as I would love to read a lot of these books and other ones, right? I just really can't, but I know through conversation with you that it's been really helpful to understand. So you're saying like love can be diluted because we utilize it so much. And therefore it's like, well, when I say I love you to my wife, I'm like, I love you. It's the same I love you when I say I love, playing video games, or I love, podcasting, or I love like, how do I know the difference? And is there a difference? And you're saying that there is actually a difference. So you help walk us through what it actually means to love. And in your own words, what do you think? What do you think the definition of love is? Do you have a core definition, or maybe a mindset, or a paradigm, or a belief that you believe that? What is the word love? What does that mean? What is it? I have no.
Yeah, I mean, again, not
it's
to
on
sound
a
cliche,
spectrum, by the way.
This is fantastic. I almost said I love this question.
Yeah, no, it's good.
If that would have been on point for the pun associated with it. There are a million different ways you can answer this question, of course, and I'm not here to side skirt it or sound political. To me, love is action. Love is a verb, and this is not revolutionary. Nor am I going to claim that I'm the one that figured out love for the first time ever, and that's why you should buy the book. I do believe I packaged it in a way that's hopefully digestible in a clear-cut manner to understand the neurochemistry, the attachment styles, the trauma bonds. Like we talk about the slot machine style of love. It's like, which is the abusive relationship aspect of it. Am I going to get a reward today? Am I not going to get a reward today? Like,
because I gave this.
Transactional styles of love, all these different things. So without avoiding your question, to me, it really stays with love as an action. And what does that look like? Well, I see love in a single word as kindness, and an action of kindness. So when you see these things like pass it forward, that to me is an embodiment of love. When you see like people showing up because there's a car accident and they're helping people, like that to me is an embodiment of love. Like love is an action, love and kindness is my simplest way of rooting it down. Now, of course, the Bible, and I touch on that too, is like one of the all-time favorite lines, like love is patient, love is kind.
Great script.
And that's obviously brilliant. And I put that in there for a good reason too. Like it can mean a million different things. And that is a huge reason why I felt so called to write this, because this is meant to be a triggering book. It's meant to be a thought-provoking book. My intentional design was to be a little bit clinical from my background as a clinician, was to be a little bit philosophical, because I love philosophy and I love the idea of arguing that there's not actually a right or wrong answer to anything. And it was meant to be triggering. Like my hope was that I would poke you a little bit to the point you'd be like, this guy's kind of a jerk, or I disagree. I'd be like, great, that's going to help you discover your core definition of love yourself. You don't have to agree with love being kind. Fantastic. That means that you just found out closer through what it isn't for you, what it is.
That's beautiful. I really, no, I'm serious. That is so beautiful, because it's like, I do agree that the highest form of like love is through action. So like I always said, like I don't really like affirmations all that much. Like I kind of feel like they've been for me kind of stale, regardless of how intentional I was behind the words that I would speak to myself. So like if I say that I am, I wish I had this over here so I didn't have to get up, but I have words that I read off every single day that I've written many, many years ago. And it says like, one of the things is I'm love. Well, so like, what does that actually mean? And I can't tell you what that means unless I tell you the action behind what it means. So it's like, if I say that I love my wife, what acts do I showcase that show me that I am being intentional about the way that I love, right? So it could be a hug, it could be holding a hand, it could be not walking in front of her, it could be walking beside her. Like we talked about, if you're walking through two doors, what do you do here? We were saying like going into Permanis, you were like, so wait a minute, I have a question for you. I said, oh yeah, what's that? You're like, so when you walk into these doors, you got one door you got to open, then there's a little hallway, then you got another door. You let the woman through when, and or are you stretching yourself out? No, you come
run
in,
ahead of her.
yeah, you know. And I said, interesting, but I think the gesture behind one door is enough. I tried, you know what I mean? So
You
it's
get
like
the second one.
I'm like trying to get my foot around the other one, and I'm like, looking like an X trying to open these doors. And I said, well, it depends. Maybe sometimes she wants to get it as well.
There you go.
But it's like, it's beautiful that you're making them to become, once again, what I love about this, now that I'm understanding it a lot more, you're making them conscious. What is consciousness? It's the awareness of thought, right? It's like you become more aware of your thoughts and you're causing people to think, right? And it's like, what a beautiful gift that you can give to someone, the power of thought. And I think if you can control your thoughts, you can really control your destiny, because it's going to steer you down path one, which is once again, that victim mentality, that poor me mentality, or it can prosper you and be like, have faith in you. Like this time of my life, going through a season of just straight faith, man, and I know that well, how do I know it's faith? Well, because I'm acting accordingly. Like I think all of these affirmations and these words like love, I agree, are verbs, and like you have to understand the activity behind it in order to know if you're living congruently. And if you are, you should applaud yourself each night, because it's like, it's hard to do, and this world will tear you down, and you do have to be emotionally resilient to get through, because life is going to bring you ball pain, life is going to bring you back pain, life's going to give you headaches, financial stress, and you're not going to ask for it. They will show up. And now what matters is how you're going to show up. So if someone currently today just went through a heartbreak, a breakup, separation, or divorce, what's the first step that you would tell them to take? They feel lost, they feel alone, they feel like they're not lovable, they feel like they've given everything, now they lost everything, within themselves. Where would you tell that person to potentially begin their journey toward love and healing?
Wow, dude, I feel like you're speaking to me 2 years ago when we first met. The financial, the physical, the breakup, the pseudo engagement in the book and everything. It's wild, right? So, but to anyone out there, I mean, I think, and again, I can only offer the steps that I've walked ahead.
Well, good for you by saying that, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh, I learned it from somewhere else, right? I'm going to tell you what I learned so that you maybe do it. You're like, no, I'll just tell you what I did.
Yeah.
So like, start there.
That's what I've had to do time and time again. That's where the root of no contact comes from. It's a space of disciplinary. I didn't go on any dating apps. I think I really shut down or really shut off a lot of social media. Absolutely the no contact thing, because I had to figure out, like, which can be, it almost sound like if you're feeling depressed, and this is like a cautionary bit, like, don't isolate yourself, because that can make it much worse. But the idea of go within or go without, that's the embodiment of that for me, came from that space of like, wow, I really have to quiet my mind and the noise and understand the attachment that I had to this person, this story that I told myself of a happily ever after. It doesn't mean it couldn't have been true. I very much think it could have been, and I'll love that woman forever. She was amazing. It's tremendously sad that we didn't work out, but that's also how life happens, life on life's terms. We don't always have to end relationships speaking poorly about the other person.
Amen.
You can end the relationship recognizing that maybe the paths are now no longer meant to be together. And that's a chapter in the book too. Shout out my own book. But it's true. I think it's chapter 7 called Letting Go. But it really is like in that space of celebrating what we had, instead of, we all too often, it's easier to walk away from something by villainizing, making a villain out of the other person. Like, you're so horrible, you're so terrible. That doesn't actually heal. It's like, no, this was beautiful, and I want to give space and time to really appreciate the beauty of what that was. And also, selfishly, that tells me the depth that I can love. Because the way that I was able to love that woman in the capacity that we had and all the travels that we shared were tremendous. Like, some of the greatest things ever. And that's because I showed up that way, which also means that I can do that again. So
Amen.
That's for all of you guys. Like, you carry that with you, but if you don't stop and actually recognize the good that you brought to the relationship, it's like, that's why there's the pain. They say grief is love with nowhere to go. Like, when you're experiencing grief, it's because you have all that love to give and it has nowhere to go anymore. So you got to stop and really absorb that and digest it and be like, okay, like, I get chills as I'm saying it. Like, just, I know it sounds so cliche and tacky. I try to find other ways of saying it, but love yourself. All the love we're giving to the other person is no longer there to be given. So we experience the grief. Well, how do we love ourselves back into being with ourselves? That's why I don't go on dating apps. So I don't go on the social media stuff, because it's all distractions. And drugs and drinking, all these things, like they're all distractions. So yes, it sucks. Like I'm not gonna lie, but by putting in the effort in those first few months, crying if you gotta cry, like I cried a lot, man.
Yeah.
Like, and they're beautiful. Like tears are beautiful things, man. Like we don't get to experience that often enough sometimes, but.
Yeah, some people have a hard time. I was just talking to someone that said that they don't know how to cry. They can't. Their body doesn't allow them. So it's kind of sad because I teared up over the weekend watching, my family member get married and like, the dad giving the speech to the daughter and things of that nature. And I'm glad that I can because there was a time that I couldn't. Because I feel like I have to be the strong one. But with that being said, I do agree with you. Like no contact is where you begin because it's not it's the idea of like, now is the time to take care of me. And understanding like maybe actually it was never love at all. It was just you being distracted enough so that you didn't have to take care of yourself. And that's why you got in the relationship is like, oh, well, I'm no longer my responsibility and I'm waiting for someone else to give me love. And their love is going to be enough, and it never is. Like I'm not. There's no bash against my wife, but her responsibility isn't for me to make me feel loved. Like I think she plays a huge contributing factor into the way that I live my life. But like learning how to love me, respect me, be kind to me, trust in my eyes God. Because do the hard thing. When you do the hard thing, it's usually the right thing. Having faith, very hard. Living in fear, easy. Having anxiety, easy. Living with peace, hard. Reading, hard. It's like, what can I do in the no contact time frame that could actually help me to heal? Well, start here. Maybe just block them. Any type of relationship that ends for me, it's nothing personal. I block them every single time.
100%.
Every single time. Why? Because I've told 1,000, probably over almost 10,000 people, and that's directly, not indirectly. I talked to over hundreds of millions of people saying no contact. Now you're telling me that I shouldn't use the no contact and block them? So I'm like, I've got it ingrained into me because part of being a coach is like being accountable to yourself.
100%.
I'm going to tell you to do something unless I do it.
Absolutely.
And when I am, then I'm like, oh, I got to backpedal and do it myself, right? So with going no contact, super important. And what you can do in that time is really buy a copy of his book, Love Unlocked, because it's like, that's where, I can go through the list of books that I've read that have helped me to heal throughout my journey to understand like, how do I move through this time? When I have a problem, I find the solution by reading about it. I read somebody, listen to somebody, watch somebody else who has a similar story. And I do my research to find that person. And it's like, well, how do you speed up anything? You learn it. And how you learn it as quickly as possible so you don't have to spend the rest of your life learning it, right? Learning about forgiveness, learning about letting go, learning about no contact, learning about separation and how to heal past that. And like I always say, man, and I want you to maybe touch on this because you talked about letting go a little bit, but I want to give you the pre-frame of it, is I always found it hard to let go of someone when I didn't have something to walk toward. When I didn't have a future bright enough for me to, I stayed stuck in the past. I was unable to let go because I didn't have a hope-filled future, something to catapult me out of the pain and have something exciting to go toward. And you live in a beautiful part of the world in Bali, and you were able to like experience. You love scuba diving. You love going on dives alone. You love just hanging out with sharks, which is super strange. But some people have their own ticks. But it's like, talk about if you can give any type of insight on what does it mean. Someone who's struggling to currently let go of the past pain, how would you tell them, is there maybe, a formula? Is there maybe a paradigm? Is there maybe a thought process? How does someone work through letting go of their past pains? Do you have any through talking? I don't know, like what are your methodologies or frameworks?
So talk therapy works to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, we're always going to be limited to what we hold on to the body. So when you talk about somatic therapy, it's an aspect of feelings in our body as a direct relation to what we're storing within our body. So the argument for pain, for an example, whether it's a physical pain or an emotional pain even, is it's something that we're refusing to let go of. It's an attachment. Are you familiar with the analogy of the rope burn? I imagine you are. You've heard that. So if you cling to the rope, like let go or be dragged is another way of looking at it. But say you have the rope of life running through your hands. The more that we squeeze down on the rope, the more that we're holding on, the more pain we're going to experience, or we're going to start getting dragged. If you let go of that, that's life happening on life's terms. The rope of life is like the breakup or whatever. It's just happening. The more we squeeze and we cling to that, the more pain we're going to experience. The more we let go, the more we're have a higher likelihood of experiencing no pain. Now, that sounds very poetic of me and well done for the abstract version, but what does that mean in practicality? Well, what it looks like is you can go into meditations, which is actually learning to wish yourself peace and wellness. And you do it for a neutral party, and you do it for the person who's hurt you. That's always the hardest one. But when you wish well for all beings, it's a wild way of living. Like you picture, it's easy to do it for somebody you like.
Yeah.
It's maybe arguably a little hard to do it for ourselves, but usually we're pretty okay with it. I don't
usually like myself. So
the neutral party is a taxi driver or whatever. You don't even remember their name, or somebody that just randomly walked by you on the street. Like that's probably fine too. But the last one, the one where someone has actively harmed you, that's a tough one. And when you practice that day in and day out, that's a great, great tool. It's rewiring the mind. You said neuroplasticity in the car earlier.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's rewiring the brain. So the more you practice something, the more you're creating more neural pathways to actually be able to continue to do that behavior, which means at some point it can be automatic, which is what we talked about before too, about not just, I think we kicked off the podcast that way, about not cursing the person that cut you off. It's because you're rewiring the way that you're seeing the world. Amen. It's not that the world is different. It's just that we're seeing it differently. The idea of perception, off of our own capability. You talked about being a victim or not being a victim. Like I'm going to raise my hand and decide I'm going to take accountability for my own life, which means I'm going to rewire my brain the way I see the world so I can have a better experience. Nothing is good or bad. It's thinking that makes it so. William Shakespeare twice.
Yeah, so that's a good one too. Yeah.
So you bring that full circle to the idea of, okay, like I'm responsible for the way I view the world, which means I have to put the work in to understand, like, I'm not a victim of this relationship. I've been cheated on a ton. Like, okay, well, what did I do in that situation? What's my part in this? Like, we get to take a personal inventory and accountability for my actions in that relationship. Oh, Zach, I didn't do anything. Well, maybe you didn't, but at least do some accountability around it. Like, were we neglectful to that person? Did we show up in a certain way? Were they just not a good person in the first place? Well, if that's the case, and your part in it was you shouldn't have dated that person in the first place. Like, there were probably some red flags there.
Yeah, right. There always are.
So that you still have a part in it. Like, you can't escape this.
Yeah, there's always, listen, there's always a red flag. In every relationship, there's always a red flag. Yeah. We choose to ignore it because in the world of love, we're like, you know what, let love lead.
Love.
It is. I mean, holy smokes. Yeah. And love is hard, by the way. I don't think it's easy, and I think it's because it is an action, and any action takes effort. Effort is not easy, and I always been hit. I'm tired of people like, you know, kind of being like, oh, well, you know, you've only been married for 5 years and with her for 10. I'm like, you know, I've heard it, and I literally just had a conversation with my mom about like this couple being married for like almost 50 years, and they're getting a divorce, and they're like, well, you would never think, but you know, people change and yada yada. I'm like, yeah, but consciously they wouldn't. Yeah. Like if they were conscious enough, like I'm choosing every day to continue to recommit myself to my wife by showing up for her as best I can. Not every day I get it right, but it's always there in my mind so that love is not lost because it is constant effort, and it's challenging because this world requires you to make money. This world requires you to work. This world requires you to sacrifice yourself in gains of whatever you need to survive, which is just ruthless behavior. But that's why emotionally resilient people, I think, oftentimes learn how to get back to their emotional stability playing ground is quicker than most people, because it's like emotional resilience to me means like you're able to bounce back quick to your baseline, and hopefully that your baseline through conscious relating with yourself, you know who you are, you know what you like, you know where you're headed, you know who you are, and that really has set me off for a strong foundation. And you know what? I don't really get biblical, but it's like, if I don't know who I am, I will read the Bible and it will tell me, remind me of who I am. And I know that I'm not here to be religious. It's just like, that's how I was born and raised. And so it's like, well, then that's who I am. And I'm just going to accept that part of me that was forced upon me, like, and not forced, but accepted. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's helped me to kind of find my boundaries. So like letting go, you know, is like sometimes what you're saying, I remember doing. So beautiful that you said the way to let go of anything that's kind of like hurting you is allowing you to kind of sit in meditation to wish well upon the person that hurt you. And it's like, every time I do that, transparently, I don't want to. My ego says like, don't. But then there's like, I'll be like, okay, just act as if you did find peace with them. How would that feel? And I welcome peace into my body. And I'm like, then I feel everything's fine. Like, I'm like, oh, that's good. You know what? Like, it'll all work out. Have the faith, because it's hard. Fear is easy. Have the faith. Do the hard thing, which we talked about. Conscious relating to me is hard. Self-acceptance is hard. Anything with self is hard. Yeah. But like when you focus on making time for yourself, and I find the best time to make time for yourself is in the morning, and that's why I stick with my habits pretty well. Like I don't believe my habits will make me $1 million or $1 billion, but it will help me to consciously relate to myself, and then I can feel like $1 million and $1 billion, right?
I like that.
So like I really take a lot of pride in those, like for a quick hour of my morning to really just invest into me so that I can then show up for someone else. But maybe even I don't want to spend too much more of your time on this, but I do want to understand, in regards to, we talked about conscious relating and what that means. We talked about what the definition of love is and why it's more of a verb and action than it is just a feeling.
Yeah.
We talked about if you feel lost, if you feel hopeless, and you want to heal, go no contact, which has helped you significantly.
Yeah.
If there's one message. If there's one message that you'd want to get to just say to everyone on this earth, so 8 billion people or whatever we're at now,
I love that.
What would be your core message and hope to the world that they would be able to receive from you? What is that message that you would like to share with other people?
I love this question. Thanks, man. I think what came up for me when you were speaking, and what continues to come up for me, is this idea of like hurt people, hurt people. And it's this aspect of like, we don't have to take it personally. There's this acronym, Q-tip, quit taking it personally.
Q-tip.
And some people put a Q-tip in their pocket to remember that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, quit taking it personally, because it's actually one of the 4 agreements, right? There's always books written of everything.
It's so
Nothing
beautiful,
new
by
under
the way.
the sun. There's always like
well, no, but you're a messenger of the work that you've invested.
Yeah.
Like you are the caliper of books that you read and what you digest.
Exactly.
So good for you to know. Like I was going to say, if you didn't.
Yeah.
Powerful book, by the way, 4 Agreements,
Yeah,
changes your
100%.
life. And one of them is don't take anything personally.
100%. Yeah, quit taking it personally. And because it's very ego driven, it's very self-obsessed. It's very I. If like I am the center of the world, then everything that's happening around me is happening to me. And again, it's a perception shift. And it's like, no, people are all just trying to figure out a way to make a living, right? And hurt people typically is a byproduct of a ripple effect of bad things happening. It's sort of that whole thing of like, oh, what's the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. Well, maybe, except for like, what happens if that person that you're getting under or over, depending on your position of choice, not to get sexual here,
That's beautiful.
but like, is like, what if they like you? Then like you're using this person to like feel better, to get over the other person. Like they don't deserve that. Yeah. And then they're going to carry that over to the other person. And that doesn't even include a whole slew of other things that can carry in those events. But
energy, there's so much trauma that can be released when you make that connection.
Dude, it's
almost like, maybe I'm going on a whole different route, but like could you like, that's a form of abuse. Like if you allow the energy transfer to take place and you have this bad energy, like, and you get with someone and you sleep with them, that energy, dude, that's abuse.
Yeah, and it's really icky, and then you're responsible for it. Like, and then, again, like, there's all 4, whatever works for you, and I'm not saying like you can't have your fun and enjoy it, but that's an aspect of conscious relating too. Like, understand, why am I going into this engagement with this person, and are they on the same page? Have we had a discussion? There's plenty of adults out there that can have an honest to God conversation, be like, hey, I just want to hook up and have a good time. The other person's like, yeah, I want to hook up and have a good time too. Cool, high five, let's go. Like, and have a good time. Like, that's conscious relating. It's not that hard, but it's this idea of like, oh, what if I'm like, don't say that, and what if I like, play the game or whatever, and that's where people's feelings get hurt. It's like, I don't know this and I don't know that, and what are we carrying with us? Like, again, so hurt people. Well, are you one of those hurt people hurting people? It's not other people. See, a lot of times this is what's fun too. I would bet 90% of us, if not more, heard hurt people, and went right to a space of like, yeah, that asshole or that B word, they hurt me, and they must just be hurt and damaged. How many people heard that and went, damn, like I'm a hurt person and I've been hurting people? Like, how I would be shocked if like, and credit to you, and that's not a knock on anybody listening or watching, if you didn't go there, but it's another example of how we live in a space of self, an I-driven world. And that's a space of ego. So hurt people applies to our actions. So we get to take responsibility for those actions to shift and change the way we show up in the world. Be the change that you want to see in the world. It doesn't matter what, honestly, I say this all the love of my heart. I don't care what he or she did to you. I really don't. I care how you respond to it, and I care how you treat other people as a result of the things that have happened to you, because that's what impacts the world.
Yeah, and that's once again that's that hard part that I'm saying. Like
Yep.
what you're saying, like is choose the hard, the more difficult, because hurt people, and why do they keep hurting people? Because it's an easy thing to do,
Exactly.
right? And it's generational curses are not broken, without hard work, and that's kind of a generational trauma that can take. There can be generational traumas with that, with relationships, with love, with money, with a lot of things, and it's like I think I'm the first, besides my brother and myself, we are the first generation that are non-alcoholics in our family, right? And I didn't realize how important that was, but I learned that I saw the damage that alcoholism can really bring to people, into marriages, into homes, and it's like, well, easily chose like, I don't want to drink, I don't want to go to clubs, I don't want to go to parties, I don't want to put myself in bad situations because I see the bad side of that. I don't see the good. I don't see the fun and like the letting loose. I don't see it that way. You see the world that you want to see, and what I see with like alcoholism and drugs and partying and bars and going out like is all danger. Like it's all dangerous, and it really can lead you down a path of like not being very happy or successful, ruining marriages, ruining homes, and it's like peace is built in the home. And then what is built in a home can be then reflected outside of yourself, in the community, which is what I believe that we're here to do, is to build better communities. And we have to start within our homes. And it's like, beautiful message, by the way. I always said hurt people. And it's not my saying, it's, not yours. It's just a general good understanding is like, but you have the ability to consciously relate back to yourself. And this is where it all stems from. Is like, and I think this is part of your message is like, I want you to consciously relate to yourself so that you have the ability to work on yourself, do the work so that you don't continue the cycle of hurt people.
Yep.
And when you start to learn love and the way that you receive love, give love, be love, you'll be able to find your person. And I just told you this earlier. You're like, you joke with yourself, and it's part of your like self-talk that's highly improved, by the way. It's like you joke. You're like, yeah, what guy writes a book on love who's not even in a relationship? Well, yeah, okay, you could say that, or it's like, well, that's one definition because I said love is on a spectrum, and one definition is like, okay, well, the only way I'll feel love is if someone else is giving me it.
For sure.
And I'm like, no, dude, you have unlocked love. Like, and are you fully loved by yourself? No, but like, that's why I think God is such a centralized location for me, because it's where I was never supposed to be enough. That wasn't my job as a human being. Like, I wasn't supposed to be enough. Like, that's why my faith is in God, because he was enough. Everything he gave to me has been enough. I have to lean into that. I have to let go of my own self-perception and thinking that this whole I world, the world that says like if it's not up to me, it's not meant to be. I have to love me. You have to have conscious relating. I have to have self-acceptance. No, because God said like I am loved by itself. Like there's nothing I can do to gain love. I am it. Like, and when I surrender to that, when I let go on that, when I meditate, everything that you've talked about, I've been able to find just peace within just. Well, it's nothing I can do. I am loved. Like it's inevitable. Like just like breathing. Like I'm not thinking about breath right now. I'm just breathing. Well, I'm not thinking that I need love. I'm already loved. There's nothing I need to do. And so like that's a different paradigm shift in perspective. And like I said, I do believe that this part of my journey is heavily rooted in God right now of my life, because the hard thing is to have faith, have trust, have hope in moments where you are letting go of in a season, whether you're letting go of a love, a career, an identity. Because you think about letting go of a career, it's like when you lost your career when we were working together, right? And a secure job and things of that nature. You lose an identity with that, dude. And it's like, this is who I am. I had a title, I had a position, I have a schedule, I have I have leverage. There's all of these things that you can gain. All of it. Providership. Yeah, my wife makes more money than me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I realized like, well, wait a minute, maybe I don't like that, right? And it's like, well, why don't I like that? So I've had those conversations. And it's like, so when you're at a loss, dude, it's I love your story, because you're just saying like, well, it's time to remember yourself and to consciously relate back to yourself and uncover yourself. So I highly recommend. I've been with Zach now for a year and a half, and we've worked on so many projects. I mean, from getting clear on Nomadic Addict to getting clear on Love Unlocked to getting clear on your personal brand to content creation, to which website, which blog, which email, which where's your next step in life. And I'm proud to say that I'll be working and partnering up with Zach to work with Stratton Strategy, as well as just what we've been doing here to bring him on as a regular guest, not always in person, but more so on the podcast, because I believe that he's very in alignment to my story. I really feel like we've lived the same life, and we're always in the same, like we're kind of walk stepping together, right? And it's a beautiful process. But out of just straight honesty, although I didn't read his book, I know his book because I've spent a year and a half with him. I understand who he is at the heart, at the core, and I highly recommend you go check out his book, Love Unlocked. I'll leave it in the show notes below. I'll leave a link there. I'll also post it all over the platforms and stories to make sure that the word gets out there, because I think if you could just walk away with the idea that it's your turn to love unlocked, so that you can once again not only love yourself, but find someone, or start to understand who to say no to, because you could be with anybody that you want to be. Don't get it wrong. You're consciously trying to find love, which is much more difficult than just accepting anything that comes your way.
Facts.
You, my friend, have more variety of women in the best way possible. Like in the best way possible.
No,
like
I know,
people don't
you
even
mean.
know how to begin. Like, how do you start a conversation?
Yeah.
That's easy for you. The things that people find difficult, the anxiety, I'm not going to go talk to her. I'm not going to have the confidence in that. I'm not going to go put my neck out there. I'm not going to go try this and then end up with another heartbreak form. You're like, no, I'm just going to keep giving her all and just figure it out. I'll find my person eventually. And as long as you have that hope, dude, it'll all work out. And I know that your next level of life is going to bring a lot of financial gain and a lot of love as well, because I think that is actually your true north, what you want. And I applaud you for that. I applaud you for finishing your book. I know that was a challenge,
massive,
in the chaos of life. But there's a lot to uncover here, man. I think we could honestly, and we spend hours together, and our conversations always go over. But ultimately, I want to bring you back on the podcast because there's a lot of book to uncover here. Great. But with that being said, where can they go and find you, follow your journey, join what you got going on to be a part of? Where can they find you on social media? What's your...
Yeah, so the at Zach Spowart, ZACSPOWART, is my newest one specific to the book. My other older, sort of fun, playful one is Nomadic Addict,
which is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's sober journeyman side of me that makes no sense. It's whales, dolphins, sharks, and it's just whatever.
You're a nomadic, dude. And what he does, and he's once again downplaying what he does. So this guy lives such a cool nomadic lifestyle. He left the United States to go live in Bali, and he loves spending time in the ocean and enjoying wildlife. And he does so many cool things. He does like these silent dancing discos where he puts on these headsets, and like he gathers literally community of people, anywhere from 20, 30, 40, 50 people. He put me in a group one time, and there's people sending dance videos. Like, he's saying, like, listen, the way that you get out of the depression is to get out of the mind and into the body, and you're just dancing freely, and you look dumb, but you're with enjoyment on your face. And it's like, he does a lot of really cool things, genuinely cool. And I'm always like, you're always like, dude, I'm the hustler, and I'm like, dude, you're living, dude, and you're enjoying it, and you're loving life. And it's like, you might die tomorrow, and you're going to be happy just sitting behind a computer
100%.
And just working? No. So like, good for you on that, man. I appreciate you coming to my home and being a part of my life, and it's super exciting to have you here. This podcast will be the next podcast that I release. Get it out as quickly as possible. But once again, my friends, this is Love Unlocked with Zach Spowart, and listen, if you found this message important, or it resonated with you, or you feel like someone in your life needs to understand what love means so they can rewrite their paradigm or rewrite their reality around building a healthier relationship with love, I highly recommend getting this book, Love Unlocked, because Zach is the definition of love in action. He is the definition. He puts his heart out there on the line all of the time. With every conversation that I've ever been with, it's him trying to put his heart out there, trying to put himself out there. And I don't think you'll ever find love unless you put yourself out there. So my friends, thank you so much. Is there any final words that you need?
It's awesome, man. No, thank you for inviting me into your home. It's such a beauty and pleasure. Honestly, guys, I think just be easy on yourself is the best thing I can recommend. This is, life's hard enough as it is. The last thing you need to be doing, we were talking about this, is this idea of beating yourself up along the way. You don't need any more critics out there. You need more cheerleaders. You need more support. And if you can't be that for yourself, then what are you really doing? So ZachSpowart.com is another way that you can find me. All of that's under one website there. But honestly, reach out if you need anything. I'm here for you. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I'm sending you guys love and have love for you. Love each other, love yourself, and that's all I got to say, dude.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for being here. My dear friends, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I appreciate you being here. Please share this out with 1, 2, or 3 of your friends, family, or those that you love and care about, because this is what's going to help them transform their lives. And until next time, go out there and live fully, love openly, and go make your own difference.